Hey everyone, welcome to Wishing Well BBQ. I'm Dustin Wells, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful, delicious steak on a gas grill. You know what time it is, let's do it. I am always getting DMs asking if my recipes translate to gas grills. Can you cook X, Y, Z on a gas grill? Is it possible? So I thought maybe I should do a series on how to cook things on a gas grill. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you would like to see from our channel. Now, let me show you what we got to do to get this steak ready for the grill. I went to my local grocery store and picked up this 16-ounce prime grade ribeye, and you can tell it's prime by all the intermuscular fat, and especially on this spinalis, which is the muscle that goes around the ribeye. I'm going to take my Spaceman boning knife and do a little bit of extra trimming where there's all this extra hard fat and this piece that's kind of hanging off. I just want to cut that off, and it's going to give the steak a nice shape. And it's very possible that you're not going to have to do this trimming. I just want to get rid of this extra hard fat that's on the steak. Now that I've got my steak nice and trimmed, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. It doesn't matter what type of oil you use. You just want to make sure that you rub the steak down on all sides. Today I'm going to be using my Wishing Well BBQ Texas Cowboy rub, and if you want to buy this rub, just check out our web store. The link is in the description below. You can see that this rub is a very coarse rub and goes great on steak, and if you don't have this, you can use just any SPG seasoning. One of the biggest mistakes that I see when people grill a steak is they don't season it enough. You really want to make sure you get it nice and covered on all sides and including the sides. A pro tip is after you've seasoned both sides, you can get that steak and just roll it on its side with all of the excess seasoning that you've got on the cutting board. And that's going to make sure that your steak is nice and seasoned all around. Now we know this steak is going to be packed with flavor. Now that I've got the steak nice and seasoned up, I'm going to let it hang out here on the cutting board so that it can come up to room temperature. Doing this is a really important step because it's going to help us get a nice even cook. While our steak is resting on the cutting board, I want to talk to you about the two different methods that you can use to grill your steak. The type of method that you use is really going to depend on the size of your steak. If you have a steak that's under 2 inches thick, you're going to want to do a normal sear. And that's exactly what we're going to do today because this steak is 1 1/4 inches thick. If you have a steak that's about 2 inches or even more, such as like a tomahawk or a cowboy ribeye steak, you're going to want to do a reverse sear. I plan on doing a future video on how to also cook using the reverse sear method on a gas grill. But if you want to see how I did a reverse sear on the smoker with a 50-ounce steak, check out this video right up here. So just to conclude, if you have a steak that's under 2 inches thick, you want to use the standard sear, which is where we're just gonna sear it first and then bring it up to its final temperature slowly. If you have a steak that's bigger than 2 inches thick, you're gonna wanna utilize the reverse sear method, which is where we slowly let it come up to temperature and then we sear it at the end. Now let's fire up this grill. Today I'm cooking on my Charbroil infrared gas grill. This grill has 4 burners, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn all 4 of them all the way up so that I can get the temperature as high as the grill will go. All right, so we've let this steak hang out on the cutting board until it reached room temperature, and just check out how amazing this steak looks. You can see that that seasoning has really penetrated the meat. Now, before we put this steak right on the grill, there's a couple of things we want to do. We want to make sure that the grill is up to a really high temperature. So I'm looking around 600, 650 degrees. This is going to help us get that really nice sear on that steak that we're looking for. I'm going to open up the grill and spray it down with some vegetable oil. That way the steak doesn't stick. If you don't have an infrared gas grill, be really careful when spraying with oil because it will flare up. After the steak has been sitting out, the outside of it's going to be super dry, so I do like to hit it with just a little bit of extra oil. I'm also going to top it off with a little bit of extra Texas Cowboy rub. Now we're ready to place the steak on the grill, so we're going to open it up and we're going to put it down at a 45-degree angle. We're going to give it a little push and then we're going to set a timer for 1.5 minutes and close the lid. Once our first timer goes off, we're going to open up the grill and move the steak to a new part of the grill at the opposite 45-degree angle. Then we're going to set our timer again and close down the grill. Now the second timer has gone off, so we're gonna open up the grill and flip the steak and move it to a new part of the grill at the original 45-degree angle, and just check out those grill marks. You know what to do next. Set your timer and close down the grill. Now we're just gonna repeat these previous steps on this side of the steak. Let it sear for a minute and a half, turn it to the other 45-degree angle, and then let it sear for another minute and a half. After I do my fourth and final turn, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off half of my grill. That way I don't continue to sear this steak. I'm also going to take my steak and move it to the top. That way it's a little bit further from that heat source. If your gas grill doesn't have a top rack, you may need to turn down your grill just a little bit earlier. But now that I've got my steak on this top rack, I really want to start monitoring the temperature so that I can get this steak cooked perfectly. I'm going to use my ThermoPro and stab it right into the middle of the steak. And right now I'm currently reading 95 degrees and I'm wanting to bring it up to 125 degrees. So let's close down this grill and let it cook. All right, you can see we are right at about 125 on this steak, and that's gonna give us a perfect medium rare by the time we have some of that carryover cooking, which always happens when you take a steak off the grill. I personally always like to verify with an instant read thermometer, and we're about right where we wanna be. Hey, we're ready to take this steak right off the grill and put it on the cutting board. Oh man, doesn't that look nice? So now we have our beautiful steak sitting out here on the cutting board, and it looks and smells amazing. While we let this steak rest, we want to go ahead and baste it, and what we're going to do is we're going to baste it with half of a stick of butter and 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. If you don't have any minced garlic on hand, you can always just add some garlic powder to the butter. Give it a nice little stir, and I don't want to rub the steak too much. I just want to dab some of this on there. And just look at all that butter going all over that steak. That's gonna give it such a good flavor. And hey, these little pads of garlic that's on there, that's just gonna give it an extra buttery garlic flavor. Now, we have got to let this steak rest. That's probably the most important part of cooking a steak, and it being juicy and delicious. We're gonna give it about 10 minutes right out here on the cutting board before we slice into it. Oh man, I'll tell you what, this steak, oh, it just smells so heavenly. I cannot wait to slice into this steak. But before we do, let's talk about what we did to get here. The first thing I did was go to the grocery store and pick up this 16-ounce prime grade ribeye. This one ended up being about 1.25 inches thick, so we went ahead and used the standard sear method. I rubbed it down in some olive oil and seasoned it with my Wishing Well BBQ Texas Cowboy rub. We let it hang out on the cutting board to come up to room temperature for about 35 minutes. We used that 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock method so that we could get a nice sear on this steak and so it will cook nice and even. Once we got a nice sear on both sides, we turned off half of the grill and put the steak on the top rack so that it can finish cooking at a finishing temp of 125 degrees. We put it out on the cutting board and let it rest for about 10 minutes. And now here we are, and I tell you what, let's check out this steak because I can't wait to take a bite. All right, we've got to do the test and cut it in half and see how our doneness is. Oh yeah, that's it right there. Nice and medium rare. It's nice and juicy. That's exactly what I want. Got me a nice little piece of this steak here. Hey, cheers to you. Cheers to a good cook. Let's take a bite. Man, that is so good. Anytime you can get prime grade beef, it's always gonna be worth it. Choice is pretty good too, and you can totally do this recipe with choice, but anytime you can get prime grade, that's gonna be so much better. Hey, I'm gonna get a little bit of this butter and dab it on this slice here. Makes a good dipping sauce too if you wanna do that. I'll tell you what, you have got to try this recipe on a gas grill. And you know what? You don't have to manage a fire. It's really easy to grill a steak this way. Thank you so much for checking out our video today. If you like what we're doing here on the Wishing Well BBQ channel, make sure you click that subscribe button below so that you don't miss out on any of the fun. If you like seeing a gas grill recipe, let me know in the comments so I know what you would like to see me cook on the gas grill. Make sure you also check out all of our other socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And check out our website so that you can buy this Texas Cowboy rub. Thank you so much again for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.